So, I have a new project I'm throwing at myself. Snowman here again, guys. I have this badly cracked piece of wood that I've already cut off as much of the bad wood as I can, as the rest of it. I want to make a new chest. I've been getting great reviews on the 2x4 chest I did in previous videos, so what I figured I'd do is take this natural edge, half round piece of wood that's been kicking around the backyard for well over a year now. Unfortunately, the sun getting to it here in Northern California has cracked it badly, so the wood is completely dry, so it's not like it's going to shrink anymore. The only thing is I'm trying to figure out how to repair those cracks and still have a usable piece out of it. Now what I plan on doing is cutting the piece right at the belt line and making another clamshell chest out of it. How I'm going to hollow it out, that's something for another video. I haven't figured out if I want to do the same thing that I did before, where I just cut it all the way through on the scroll saw, because it's a very soft wood. It cuts very easily. What type of wood is it? Not the first clue, unfortunately. So, if anyone can take a look at this grain and actually tell me from either the exterior. Now, most of the bark has come off, so unfortunately I don't have a bark to show you, but I do have a wood grain to show you. If anyone can tell me what type of wood this is, please leave it in the comments of this video. But this piece, these two other pieces that I was also able to save, I'm going to, whoops, as I knock the table over. Good job. Oh. Go figure. Another snowman video. Isn't chaos supposed to ensue or something like that? Now, what I plan to do with these pieces is put them natural edge out. Obviously I need to cut this one down so that it's the same height as this one. But I'm going to make those be the legs of the chest. Now it's going to be a rather large piece, as you can see, because this is a much bigger piece of wood than the 2x4s I worked with. But I'm going to position these pieces somehow, line them up a little better here, so that it looks something like that. I'm going to cut a drawer into each of these pieces, so these two pieces will actually be very small bandsaw boxes, and the top part, being the chest part of it, will open clamshell style. So I'm going to hinge the back like I did on the last one. What I may end up doing to repair all these cracks in the wood is I think I'm going to take the bandsaw and cut them the rest of the way through, and then just take all those pie slices after they've been cut and smoothed and glue the whole thing back together as one solid piece of wood, in theory. Now I'm not entirely sure if that's the best way to do it, but with the tools and things that I have available here in the shop, it's all I can do. It's my only option. If anyone else has any suggestions, put them in the comments of this video, or also you can comment on my profile on lumberjocks.com. I have a couple of my projects that you guys on my YouTube audience have already seen. But no, trying to do a raw wood project, something with a natural edge to it, see how it comes out, and take it from there. Okay, so I'm going to try something on that wood, and what it requires is me to raise the blade guide as high as it can go, just to clear the arc of this wood. What I'm going to do is I'm going to split it before I fix the cracks, because it looks like the cracks pretty much only go through one side of the wood, which is this surface here. I'm going to seem to go about halfway down the wood. Now this one goes all the way through, but what I'm going to see is if all I have to do is after I cut it, I can just repair one side of it and go from there. Now, with the blade up this high, there's a lot of blade drift, so I'm not going to get the flattest cut, but I can always fix that on the belt sander. So, it'll be a little bit loud, and I will probably turn the video volume down for that part. But, almost forgot to put in the rip fence, so I have something to guide my work. Problem is, with the fact that it didn't exactly cut straight, as you can see by the wavering line. Figuring out what cut I want to make is part of the problem. I actually want the base of the chest to be deeper than the lid, have the lid almost be like a cap, so I'm going to cut it roughly 2/3 to the base and 1/3 to the lid, so that gives me something to work with. So the knot's actually going to get bisected, but yeah, got to work with what you have. Okay, well, that came off in a lot more solid a piece than I thought it would. The cracks weren't quite as deep as they looked. So this piece is, as the lid, is going to be the one that's going to need the most repair. It has all the deep cracks through it, so I'm just going to cut and glue those and hopefully find a way to clamp everything together while it dries. What I ended up having to do, though, is since the branch stump dipped a little bit, I had to cut a curve into it, because I'm actually going to hollow out the branch stump as part of the main body of the chest. So it's going to make for a little bit of a challenge, but I'm going for something with a unique shape, so I have to deal with what I have. And before I get ahead of myself, part of me wants to just hack into this thing and get going as far as cutting it out, but I know that's probably the worst possible mistake I could make at this point. But now that I have a nice straight cut on one side, I can actually put that against the rip fence after I adjust the thickness, and I can shave this curved side of the board so that it is also flat, so I have a decent box to work with. Now I don't want to take off too much, so what I'll probably do is just line the wood up on the corner of the thinnest part, which is this end of the wood. So, and just take a slice from there. I can only hope that this doesn't reveal more bug damage inside than I can deal with. There are quite a few bug holes into the interior, so we'll see what happens. Okay, unfortunately blade drift was unavoidable on this piece, but it did reveal something rather positive to me, and that uh, the further I go into the interior of this wood, the fewer cracks I'm coming across, so that's a good thing. Unfortunately though, I'm going to end up with a lot thinner chest than I thought I would, so that's just something I'm going to have to deal with. So I'm going to do one more cut to flatten the back side of the chest here, and I'm going to have to do that to both pieces. But what it looks like I'm going to be working with is a chest about that thick. So the cut line is the lid, and that's where I'm going to go for from there. Now, the lid unfortunately has a very large crown to it from the blade drift when I originally cut off the bug-eaten wood. I think what I'm going to do after I glue everything together is just leave that crown in and hand sand it flat, because if I try to do any more cutting, I'm just going to destroy the cracked pieces. Problem is there's a definite arc to the back cut. Now, you know what? Screw it. Instead of trying to cut it and making the chest even smaller, I think I'm just going to go with the belt sander and sand it flat. So the next project is going to be taking the bandsaw to all these cracks and finishing them to the back side of the wood so that I can glue everything back together. Now these arced cracks on the bottom, not entirely sure what I'm going to be able to do with those, but we'll see how bad they are after I finish cutting all the long cracks out. Pretty much what I'm doing is I'm using the cracks in the wood as a template, and I'm just following them on the bandsaw. Now that I have the two pieces cut, and I'll do that on every other crack, what I'm going to end up doing is taking these to the belt sander and smoothing them out so that when I glue them back together, it's a flat surface on a flat surface. I'm going to try and leave as many of the natural smaller cracks in there as possible, because that will give the wood more character. So, I mean, the whole point is making this chest out of damaged wood, so we'll see what happens. Those are all the cracks that were just too big to save. So what I'm going to do is smooth each one of those curvy cuts out on the belt sander and glue them back together and figure out a way to clamp this mess once I get it glued back together. So the lid is in progress. Still not entirely sure what I'm going to do with the body of the chest yet, or the under pieces, which I showed you guys earlier. But as much as I wanted this project to be done in one video, I'm coming to find out there's a lot more work to do with natural raw wood than there is with pre-milled lumber. So, well, folks, we have a slight problem here. The wood ended up cracking in more places than I was ready for. So, I have more pieces to glue. Like this little guy here came off when I was trying to cut this crack and get that one situated. So I have to glue that back together, and it's making me realize this wood is a lot more fragile than I thought it was. So I'll get all these pieces glued back together and see if I can still make this project after I'm done with all that. So this is pretty much how it's going to go. It'll be a bunch of clamped pieces with big gaps and obvious crack lines, but that's really the point of this project. I wanted to see if I could take some really badly sun-damaged wood and see if I can make some type of interesting looking project out of it. Now, for right now, these two pieces are completely glued, even though you can still see the cracks in them, and clamped, obviously. The next couple pieces that I need to work on are, well, this is the one part of the whole lid that I got lucky with, and that's the branch stump. The only crack is right here. Now, it goes quite a ways through the wood, but not all the way to the backside, but I think what I'm going to end up doing is breaking it off and clamping it anyways. The crack over here stops at the center of the branch, so I'm not entirely sure how I'm going to fix that one other than just packing it with some wood glue and calling it good. But beyond that, once I get all of these pieces finally glued back together into a lid, I need to sand the entire thing flat so I can get rid of all these bandsaw cut marks. So, still have two more pie pieces over here to sand and glue together. I may end up cutting this one crack, but I don't know. I'm not entirely sure. If I can pack it full of glue and clamp it, I might be okay, because this, well, one crack that bothers me the most is this one that's in the middle of the piece. Now, I'm hoping if I fill that with glue and clamp it, it'll be okay, but the problem is that's going to change the shape of the wood drastically, and I'm not entirely sure if I'll be able to get that back together. But we'll see. It's going to be very rough, it's going to be very segmented, but it's going to be one solid top when it's all put back together. So, bear with me, guys, and I'll give you an update as soon as I can. Well, guys, there are times when you just have to get creative. I could not find any type of clamp out of all the different clamps I tried to get this angle clamped together. So what I ended up having to do was fill the crack with glue, and unfortunately I'm going to end up gluing the elastic bands to it, but since they're just cheap elastic bands, I can cut them off because I'm going to be sanding off the extra glue anyways. So I'm going to leave that. See if I can at least wipe off some of the extra glue. I'm going to leave this to dry overnight, and come tomorrow I'll try and reassemble the lid, and then have to come up with even more clamping, because I don't think the shop has any long bar clamps or any clamps that are long enough to clamp the entire lid from side to side. So I might have to get creative there as well, but no worries. But anyways, more to come.